For years, Apple's iPad lineup has teased users with incredible hardware, M-series chips, high refresh displays, and growing app support, but the software experience has often lagged behind its hardware potential. That might finally be changing. iPadOS 19 is rumored to be a dramatic shift, marking what could be the closest transformation of an iPad into something that actually feels like a MacBook without being one. This evolution hasn't happened overnight. Apple has gradually redefined what the iPad is, and with each iteration of iPadOS, they've brought in more Mac-like features. But iPadOS 19 might be the biggest leap yet. Let's start with the hardware. Apple now sells iPads that are just as powerful, if not more so, than their MacBook counterparts. The M4 iPad Pro, the M2 iPad Air, and even the A17-powered iPad mini are incredibly capable. These are chips shared with MacBooks, powering everything from creative workflows to gaming and multitasking. That hardware capability has never been in question. The real discussion begins with software. Until now, iPadOS has felt like a stretched-out version of iOS. A few enhancements like Stage Manager and improved Files app support have helped, but they haven't made the iPad feel like a full MacBook alternative. That might change with iPadOS 19, which seems set to prioritize productivity like never before. According to credible leaks and reports, one of Apple's main goals for iPadOS 19 is to elevate the productivity experience, finally matching the potential of iPad hardware. A central strategy will be offering a new level of app compatibility. This means that apps that were once exclusive to macOS could soon run seamlessly on iPadOS. This isn't just about redesigned interfaces or split-screen views. It's about deeper compatibility, possibly with native support for universal macOS class applications. That leads into another transformative area: multitasking. If you've used an iPad for complex tasks, you know that multitasking has been a weak point. Current methods require several swipes, gestures, and long presses. It's usable but not intuitive or fluid. With iPadOS 19, Apple is working to simplify and improve this system. Expect a more Mac-like experience, one where windows and applications are more flexible, potentially moving beyond the rigid split screen and slide over models we have now. Stage Manager, introduced previously with iPadOS 16, was meant to address this, but its limitations became clear quickly. Users criticized it for its awkward UI, inconsistent app support, and its learning curve. That's why a second-generation version, what some are calling Stage Manager 2.0, is reportedly in the works for iPadOS 19. This version may bring a redesigned interface, improved window control, and better external display support, making the iPad more useful with keyboard, trackpad, and monitor setups. Speaking of keyboard and trackpad setups, another major change expected is how iPadOS behaves when accessories are connected. When you dock an iPad into a keyboard and trackpad, the OS could shift into a more desktop-like mode, bringing a taskbar-like UI, persistent app menu, and more Mac-style navigation elements. This change would mark a major shift in the user experience and put iPads even closer to MacBooks in functionality. Now let's talk compatibility. Based on what we've seen from past updates and the hardware landscape, iPadOS 19 will likely be available on all iPads running the A16 Bionic and newer. This would include the latest entry-level iPads, the iPad mini with the A17 Pro, and all M-series iPads from M1 through M4. Older iPads with a 12Z or A12X chips may not make the cut this year, as Apple begins to draw a line around hardware powerful enough to support this new direction. The first version of iPadOS 19 is expected to launch as a developer beta right after WWDC 2025 kicks off. As always, early builds are likely to be buggy and not recommended for daily use, especially on your main iPad. A public beta will follow a few weeks later, possibly by the end of June or early July. But the stable, full release? That should land around September 2025 alongside the new iPad lineup and iPhones. This shift toward MacBook-like functionality also comes at an interesting time for Apple's hardware ecosystem. The M4 MacBook Air is already out, setting new standards for performance, battery life, and fanless design. Meanwhile, the iPad Pro with M4 now has a display that's arguably better than anything on a MacBook, paired with a super thin and light chassis. So here's the real question. Is iPadOS 19 the final step in turning the iPad into a true MacBook replacement? The answer isn't simple. iPadOS 19 might not make every iPad feel like a MacBook out of the box. Instead, it will give users the option to transform their iPad into a productivity-first machine when needed. For students, creatives, developers, and professionals on the go, this hybrid experience could offer the best of both worlds. What's most exciting is that Apple appears to finally be listening to the community. For years, we've asked for iPads to do more, especially when we're already spending MacBook-level money on these tablets. With iPadOS 19, Apple is finally building the software that matches the ambition of the hardware. If they get it right, the iPad might finally fulfill its promise as the one device that can truly replace your laptop. Until now, every iPad review has included that one line, "It's amazing hardware, but the software holds it back." That line may become irrelevant soon. If Apple successfully launches iPadOS 19 with all these changes, Stage Manager 2.0, advanced multitasking, real desktop-class apps, dynamic UI transitions, and a more intelligent file system, then the iPad might finally stop being just a bigger iPhone. Instead, it becomes what Apple always envisioned, a new kind of computer. And for those wondering if this will make iPadOS harder to use, the answer is probably not. Apple is good at layering complexity under simplicity. If you want a basic iPad experience, it'll still be there. If you want power user features, those will be just a trackpad click away. It's not about replacing macOS. It's about expanding what iPadOS can be. With WWDC 2025 just around the corner, we're about to find out just how serious Apple is about making iPadOS more powerful. Whether you're a creative, a student, or a multitasking enthusiast, iPadOS 19 could be the update that changes everything. Stay tuned. Technology Review will cover every major announcement at WWDC. From iPadOS 19 to macOS iOS 19 and beyond, we'll break it all down. Until then, let us know what you're hoping to see in iPadOS 19. More Mac features? Better file management? External display improvements? We want to hear from you. And as always, don't forget to subscribe to Technology Review for more in-depth Apple coverage. This year's WWDC might be one for the history books, and the iPad might finally graduate into the MacBook League.